Look closely. What do we all have in common? No matter what corner of the world you live in, you need food, water, shelter, and money. Half of every transaction involves money in exchange for goods or services, stocks, a loaf of bread, illegal drugs. You gotta pay for it. We spend much of our lives chasing money to make a living and accomplish our dreams. But it's also an instrument of destruction. Some might say evil, driving criminals to lie, steal, and even murder.
The existing banking system extracts enormous value from society, and it is parasitic in nature.
Money is a catalyst for the worst and the best of human endeavor. Before civilization, we created currency, fuel for wars, the path to power, champion and enemy of innovation. Money is so integral to our society and our global economy that its true nature remains a mystery to most. This is the story of money, perhaps the end of money as we know it. No matter how fat your bank account or how thin your wallet, to us it's all cold hard cash. There are some who want to kill it. Get rid of it. Burn your dollars, your euros, your yen, and transform every penny you have into ones and zeros. Digital currency. Entrust it to the web and computers spread across the planet. Magic internet money. It's called cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Invented in secret, it was a gift to the world.
It's not just a currency, but it's actually programmable money.
A potential curse on bankers.
And there's nothing that the big banks or politicians can do to stop it.
Breaking every government's grip on money supply.
What the internet did for information, Bitcoin is doing for money.
Could it be the new gold?
Regulators, the Federal Reserve, the banking system, at least understand this is a thing that they have to take seriously.
This is going to change the economic culture.
Bitcoin could be a microeconomic miracle worker, and it could be a macroeconomic wrecking ball.
Is Bitcoin the currency of the future? A godsend for criminals? Or a recipe for financial disaster? If you trust your money just as it is, we have a little story to share.
Understanding the way markets work can be difficult. Throw in nuanced approaches like decentralization and cryptocurrencies, and things can seem even more complicated. And while notions like digital black markets and non-national currencies may have seemed futuristic only a few years ago, today, peer-to-peer anonymous exchanges like Bitcoin is allowing is pioneering an entirely new way for the global community to think about financial systems. Knowing how cutting-edge Bitcoin is, yet having such little understanding how it actually works, I decided to speak to Andreas Antonopoulos, founder of Route 11 and co-host of Let's Talk Bitcoin. I first asked him to break down exactly how Bitcoin works and why it's so important to have a decentralized system of money.
Bitcoin at first glance is digital money, but if you look a bit deeper, you realize that that is just one of the applications enabled by an underlying network that allows a distributed system of computers to build a global asset ledger. So like a list of transactions for the entire world that shows who owns what Bitcoin when. And that's based on a really fundamental invention that allows computers to coordinate in that way without a central authority. And the thing is that central authorities in money traditionally are used as levers of power, either to inflate a currency and cause it to lose value, which is essentially a form of confiscation or hidden taxation, when your savings account depletes in its purchasing power because the central government is printing money to finance its own activities. So, you know, the idea of a decentralized currency is important because it removes those levers of power that people can exploit to corrupt a currency. So in this global network, everything runs based on simple mathematical rules. A fixed number of coins are issued every 10 minutes, and that amount decreases over time so that eventually only 21 million bitcoins will be issued. And that creates a fixed monetary supply which has some interesting characteristics from an economic perspective. And all of this is done simply by consensus. It's impossible to cheat the system because once you've done the work, it's in your interest to actually get the system reward rather than try to cheat the system.
Can you elaborate on how centralized systems don't exist in nature?
Sure. So Bitcoin represents a decentralized system, and decentralized systems are usually the way nature organizes things. So in nature, you don't see hierarchical systems very much. In fact, usually what you see is these loosely coupled decentralized systems that create emergent and complex behavior based on some very simple rules repeated by thousands of members. A perfect example of that is an ant colony like the leafcutter ant, where individual members are extremely simple organisms. You can even simulate a single ant on a computer. But you put several hundreds of thousands or even millions of ants together into a colony, and they exhibit incredibly complex behavior. The leafcutter ant, for example, farms aphids as a farmed species, like a domesticated species, the way we farm cattle. And that's an incredibly complex and sophisticated behavior, but it doesn't exist in any of the individual members. It's something that emerges from the complex interaction of simple rules. Bitcoin is a system that exhibits extremely complex emergent behavior, but it's based on a few very simple rules that are followed by all of the members of the network.
Someone who sits atop of a hierarchical system is CEO of JP Chase, Jamie Dimon. He recently denounced Bitcoin and predicted that it's going to fail. Right now, Bitcoin is still in the experimental phase, similar to what the internet was in the early 90s. What's your response to Dimon's prediction?
It's very difficult for people who have lived their entire life in a hierarchical system, especially at the top of a hierarchical system, and gain the benefits that come from that, including the ability to exhibit rent-seeking behaviors and to avoid prosecution for fraud that would put other people in jail a long time ago, and then be able to sit down and have a buddy-buddy conversation with the Secretary of Treasury without anyone blinking an eye. When they sit down and discuss competitive technologies and chuckle about them. I don't think Jamie Dimon really understands Bitcoin, but that's not surprising. It's not his role to understand the competing technologies because really he's in such a comfortable position whereby he can just receive $70 billion of free money from the Fed in the form of corporate welfare and doesn't have to compete. And you see this across the financial services industry where competition is stagnant, really. They compete on who can financialize a derivative to exploit the market better, or who can front-run sales and stock transactions on a high-frequency trading network. But in terms of consumer innovation, very little has happened in the last 50 years.
Speaking of U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, recently he said that Bitcoin gives individuals a place to hide and could allow for the funding of terrorist activities. What's your response, especially in light of the two New York executives who were just charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, by selling over $1 million in Bitcoins to the black market website Silk Road?
Well, Bitcoin actually offers a scale of anonymity to full disclosure of identity. On Bitcoin, it's actually harder to do strong anonymity, whereas it's easier to do strong transparency. One of the things we've seen on the Bitcoin network is the ability for charities and other public responsibility organizations or publicly accountable organizations to operate an open set of accounts and open books where everyone can see exactly what's going on. So if you want, you can use Bitcoin to deliver extreme fairness and transparency. And so far, there doesn't seem to be any indication that law enforcement organizations have any trouble tracking down transactions on Bitcoin using old-fashioned police activities. I think, in fact, Bitcoin is far more transparent than our current financial system. If you ask, for example, economists, they have no idea what the full size of a hedge fund market is or what the full size of leveraged debt is, because no one knows. A lot of this happens on closed markets where there's no accountability.
How can this currency become accessible to someone who isn't willing to spend a small fortune on an unstable investment?
Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin operates as a peer-to-peer network. This means that everyone who uses Bitcoin is a tiny fraction of the bank of Bitcoin. But where do Bitcoins come from? With paper money, a government decides when to print and distribute money. Bitcoin doesn't have a central government. With Bitcoin, miners use special software to solve math problems and are issued a certain number of Bitcoins in exchange. This provides a smart way to issue the currency and also creates an incentive for more people to mine. And since miners are required to approve Bitcoin transactions, more miners means a more secure network. The Bitcoin network automatically changes the difficulty of the math problems, depending on how fast they're being solved. In the early days, Bitcoin miners solved these math problems with the processors in their computers. Soon, miners discovered that graphics cards used for gaming were much better suited to this kind of math. Graphics cards are faster, but they use more electricity and generate a lot of heat. The first commercial Bitcoin mining products included chips that were reprogrammed for mining Bitcoin. These chips were faster, but still power-hungry. ASIC, or Application-Specific Integrated Circuit chips, are designed specifically for Bitcoin mining. ASIC technology has made Bitcoin mining even faster while using less power. As the popularity of Bitcoin increases, more miners join the network, making it more difficult for individuals to solve the math problems. To overcome this, miners have developed a way to work together in pools. Pools of miners find solutions faster than their individual members, and each miner is rewarded proportionate to the amount of work he or she provides. Mining is an important and integral part of Bitcoin that ensures fairness while keeping the Bitcoin network stable, safe, and secure.
There is a window of opportunity to make big profits by helping to build up the Bitcoin economy. We are literally in a digital gold rush, and huge companies are rushing in and spending hundreds of millions of dollars to build everything from large-scale mining operations, digital wallets, currency exchanges, and even entire ATM networks. So we are truly in the right place at the right time of experts, investors, professionals, coders, and programming geeks who understand this market. We have put together a very simple business model. Well, it's actually pretty complex under the hood, but very simple for you to profit from our expertise in this industry. How we all make money together. Bitcoin mining is very expensive, and it takes a huge budget to make money doing it. You must be able to buy the hardware equipment in bulk at a big discount. And even more important, you have to know how to keep the mine running to maximize profits. First, we have created our own proprietary software that controls mining hardware and uses it to mine for the most profitable coin in that moment. So it's not just Bitcoin, but dozens of digital currencies that are mined and converted back into Bitcoin instantly. This allows us to be a lot more profitable than most mining pools, while also diversifying into other digital currencies like Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Blackcoin, to name a few. Second, strategic purchasing power. Most mines make less and less every month because the equipment used to mine becomes less productive due to harder calculations that require more computing power to work. So you could go from making $10 a day down to $5 a day in only a few months if you don't continue to expand and maximize your efficiency. Since we are a giant pool of people all mining together, we will continue to stay on the cutting edge for years to come, buying the newest and best equipment at the lowest prices. Third, we pay referral commissions. You can get paid for referring new BitClub members. Not only will you get paid when someone you refer buys a share of the mining pools, but you will also get paid on all the coins they've earned and are reinvesting too. This can get really big just by sharing it with a few people.